Just imagine walking into a supermarket and seeing the shelves 80% empty. They're almost bare. It is eerie. It is weird in there. It echoes in there. Well, that's exactly what's going on in the American housing market today. And in fact, it's even worse than that. Hi, I'm Keith Weinhold. This is Get Rich Education. All right, well, in our ongoing supply series of videos here, we've got this familiar chart, but we've got the latest numbers tacked on to the end of it. And as you can see, yes, we are indeed still near record low housing inventory as we're over here on the right side of the chart. And if you look back 5 or 6 years ago, you can see that the supply of available homes in America is only about 1/3 of what it is. When you see these crests and troughs, that's typically associated with you have higher sales activity in the summer months and generally lower sales activity in the winter months. Look over here at what happened April of 2020. This is where sales didn't rebound when we got into the spring and summer months. That is why April 2020 is the beginning of the American housing crash. Like I've said, the crash already occurred. It occurred about 2 years ago now. It was a housing supply crash, not a price crash. People keep looking for crashes in the wrong places. No price crash is expected. The crash in American housing occurred, a supply crash 2 years ago. Now, although the supply is about 1/3 of what it was 5 or 6 years ago, the supply of housing is only about 1/5 of what it needs to be to bring the housing supply into balance and house Americans adequately. 1/5. That is the supermarket analogy that I gave earlier. The shelves of the real estate supermarket, if you will, are 80% bare. Now, by the way, when is a housing market in balance? Like, how would we know when that's back in balance? There are a few different indicators to measure a real estate market's vibrancy. When you have 5 to 6 months of inventory, that's seen as a balanced market. Any more than that, and that tends toward the buyer. Any less, and it tends toward the seller. Secondly, when the sale to list ratio is between 95 and 99%, that means when the sale price is 95 to 99% of the list price, that's seen as a balanced range. Another way to say that is when the discounts are between 1 and 4%. That's pretty healthy. If there are fewer discounts than that, it's a seller's market. If there's more, it's a buyer's market. And the third way to measure real estate market's vibrancy is with the days on market, that normal range being 30 to 60 days. We're substantially less than 30 now. Real estate is hot. Those are 3 ways to measure a market's vibrancy: the months of available inventory, the sale to list price ratio, and finally, the days on market. Hey, go ahead and put a like on this if you've learned something or you found it interesting. Unlike the American housing supply, there's no scarcity with likes. There's no shortage of those. You're not going to run out. I'd really appreciate the like. So we need to understand, when the housing supply is just 1/5 of what it needs to be, we need 500% more available homes just to bring the market back into balance. That's not being oversupplied. That's merely being balanced. We are so far away from that condition. We are so far away from that equilibrium, so far away from that, say, 5 to 6 months of available inventory. Now, new home and apartment construction recently hit a 45-year high, so help is on the way. That's potentially some good news for underhoused Americans, but it's really going to take a long time. And in fact, the homes that are most needed are those sort of entry-level homes, and oftentimes they're the ones that make the best rentals when you buy an investment property for somebody else. Those entry-level homes, there's even greater dearth of that supply. But we're talking about bringing more supply onto the market. First, let's understand the United States population really is not growing that fast. In fact, the last census figures that go from July of last year and start at July of the previous year only showed a population growth of about 1/10 of 1%. But with this pretty just stable population that we have right now, with such a shortage of housing, this is exactly why bidding wars break out when there are so many more buyers than there are available homes. That fuels bidding wars, and bidding wars fuel what? Yeah, higher prices. So this is why I keep my eye on the supply to really get a temperature of what's going on in the real estate market. Now, what happens when store shelves are 80% bare, to stick with that analogy? Just imagine what would happen if you walk into a store and you see that. Don't you think that if you could afford it, you would load up on extra Tide laundry detergent, you would load up on extra California almonds, you would load up on extra rice, you would load up on extra carrots, because you're somewhat concerned that there's so little available that if you can afford it, you want to grab more for later. That's what's going on in the housing market, especially in a higher interest rate environment. I told you here on the channel a few months ago that this is likely to happen. And look, a Business Insider reported here that homeowners, those ones that can afford it, are doubling up on homes, buying an extra home, or if they move out of a home and into a move-up home, that one that they've moved out of, they're going ahead and keeping that as a rental. And with mortgage interest rates being low, and in this higher interest rate environment, these rising rates that they've had, people don't want to let go of their homes that are at a low rate. So it's more attractive to hold on to those, or it's also more attractive for you as a homeowner to stay in the home that you have. Because if you're in a home with a 3% rate, you're a lot less likely to move out and get a replacement home, because you'd have to do that at a 5 or a 6% interest rate. Fewer people can afford that. So therefore, those people don't put their homes on the market either, because they want to keep their low rate. Therefore, that inhibits new supply. People aren't putting their homes on the market. They're grabbing them, they're hoarding them. The shelves are 80% bare. Now, one reason why I say that this housing supply condition is even worse than what's going on in a supermarket with shelves that are 80% bare is because it's easier to produce more carrots than it is housing. It's easier to produce more laundry detergent than it is housing, or almonds, or whatever it is. See, to build new housing, so many supply chain items need to converge on the same place. And you need to come up with a substantial amount of labor. And oftentimes we don't have enough laborers, and you need to train new labor. And there are a lot of regulations against building new housing. These are all reasons why it's going to take us a long time to get out of this housing supply trough. It's an inelastic condition. It's not going to change anytime soon. You can turn around empty supermarket shelves faster, a lot faster than you can an undersupplied housing condition where you need 5 times the housing. So these low interest rates that we've had can lead to a further housing shortage, like I've explained earlier. And I'm not going to break it down in this video because I explained it before, but I need to bring it up because it's so counterintuitive. Higher interest rates actually correlate with higher housing prices, not lower ones. In fact, the last 6 times that we had higher interest rates, it happened 6 times since 1994, home prices went up every single time. So if you're informed, like you sure are from watching this video, there are some action items. You want to, in general, take out loans, especially when you can outsource that debt to a tenant. You want to take out loans. See, when you take out a loan today, mortgage interest rates are still about half the rate of inflation. Here's what your relationship really is with the bank when you get to pay back the bank every month. On a loan, you get to pay back the bank with dollars that depreciate on them twice as fast as their interest can accrue on you. That's a deal that you want. When you buy real estate with a loan, what you're doing is you're buying something that historically goes up in value and borrowing something that historically goes down in value. Dollars. That's why you're using leverage, and that's why it's made more ordinary people wealthy than anything else. And that condition accelerates in an inflationary environment. I hope you found this useful. I hope you don't find yourself in a store with the shelves 80% bare anytime soon. I'm Keith Weinhold. Thanks for being here, but you weren't here for me. You were here for you. I'll see you in the next video.